Well, welcome back to CI Living. Sandy Mason with the U of I Extension is back with us once again.
And she's answering your good questions about gardening.
Okay.
Now, you do this all the time. I mean,
Yes,
you answer,
I've been
you do
doing it.
WILL and other call-in shows. So.
20-some years I've been answering questions. But the great thing is you learn a lot because people ask some very interesting questions.
Well, we've got some
good.
very interesting questions. First up, Kathy Palmer Anderson wants to know, last year we had a black rot on the underneath side of our tomatoes. What causes that?
Yeah, actually that's a really common thing, especially when we have really hot, humid summers, which how many times we have? A lot. So it's called blossom end rot, and it actually is a deficiency in calcium, and it's just the plant isn't taking up enough calcium. So a couple of things you can do. Probably the best thing is mulch the plants. That's really good, and that's a good thing to do anyway. You might use, whether you have straw or grass clippings or shredded leaves or whatever, mulch, because you want to have a nice uniform watering. That's the other big thing. Don't water and then let them get dry, and water and let it get dry, because then that's when it gets worse.
Okay.
So some of it you can't really do a whole lot about. So hang in there. We're all in the kind of the same boat when it comes to that, because sometimes just weather, just wait it out, but just really watch how much you're watering and don't let things get real dry and then real wet.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, another question now from Randy Rademacher. When is a good time to plant strawberries?
Yeah, this is actually a great time to be thinking about planting a lot of things like strawberries, those perennial type crops. So April is a great time to do that. So you'd want to plant your strawberries. Probably the biggest thing with strawberries is you really want to pay attention to how you plant them. You don't want to plant them too deep, and so you really have to really read. Usually there's a package direction, so make sure you plant them correctly. And the big thing that's really hard with strawberries is the first year you could take off the flowers and don't let them produce. That's really hard.
Why?
Well, that way the plant puts all its energy into making roots and being a really healthy plant, and then we usually wait till that second or third year. But usually the next year.
What if they end up producing? Would you just let the fruit die on the vine then?
I would eat it and enjoy
Would you
every
really?
bit of it.
It's too late. It's already there.
Every bit of it. Go for it. But you really should go ahead and take those flowers off. But we don't want a strawberry to go to waste.
Good one. Now, Julie Hahn Kellums asks, I have a small cordana? I'm not sure
about that.
Rose plant, and it bloomed. Then I took the dead roses off and the dead leaves off. Will it bloom again?
So I'm thinking she must have it indoors. That was the other thing. I wasn't quite sure, because a lot of times people get roses as gifts. They make wonderful gifts, those little miniature roses. So I have a feeling that's what it is. So I think just go ahead, take the flowers off like she did, and generally they kind of sit there and they kind of take a little rest. They've been working hard, and then they will bloom again. So that's probably the good thing with roses. They take a little bit of rest and then they'll go for it.
Okay, right. Now our next three questions kind of all go together, you said. So Kristen wants to know, when should you start to plant your garden outside? And then we've got other questions from Christy Gear that wants to know about planting potatoes on Good Friday.
Yeah, it's really a confusing thing sometimes this time of year, because you're not sure when to plant. And probably the biggest thing is know what plants you're planting, as in, will they take cold weather? We can still get cold weather way until, really we consider like Mother's Day. Usually we don't get a frost after Mother's Day, so you're not going to be planting, tomatoes and peppers and stuff like that until well after a frost. So we're going to wait till then. Potatoes are a great one. You can usually this time of year is fine. So Good Friday is usually a pretty good indication. I always think of St. Patrick's Day, Good Friday is a good time to think about planting potatoes. They're actually one that doesn't like hot weather. So really, when you know when do I plant, just realize you have to know, will the plant take some frost? Is it a cool season, warm season?
Spring peas
Once you know that.
Early?
Yeah, peas are really early too. Actually, the end of March, 1st of April, you can do peas. So there's really a lot of things you can do quite early. And a lot of the leafy things, spinach, lettuce, a lot of the stuff that we like, you can do it really pretty easy because they'll take cold really well.
Can you actually get 2 growing seasons out of the soil here?
You absolutely can. You can, especially for a lot of things like the cool season stuff. You can do a spring crop, but then you can do a fall crop. So a lot of those things that we think about, sometimes we forget. We can do it in the fall too, because they'll take those cold weather.
All right, we have time.
Weather in the fall.
One last quick question, Karen O'Hearn. Maybe you can tell us quickly. I'm not a gardener, but I have a place in front that I would like to plant some kind of flowers. What's something colorful and bright? I
would think of shrubs. There's lots of small shrubs. Things like there's a nice Weigela called My Monet. Look for some nice small shrubs. Plant them once, they'll look beautiful.
All right.
Good advice from Sandy Mason,
That's right.
U of I Extension.
Great.
We'll be right back.